Friends, just a few moments, we are going to be in the service for Mrs. Gayla Neikrug. Family asked that I make announcements in the beginning and the end just to remind people that there will be a minyan for Mincha after return from the cemetery. That minyan will be at 5:30. So we want to give the family a little time upon return from the cemetery. If everybody wants to meet back for the minyan, that will be at 5:30, both today and tomorrow. The rest of the times we'll announce a little later, and they're also on the folders. Officiating at our service today is Rabbi Aaron Braun, Northwick Community Synagogue. Once again, gentle reminder, if anybody has a phone, please take a minute to turn it on silent. Thank you.
We begin today with a psalm, Tehillim Tet Vav, Psalm 15. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai mi yagor be'oalecha, mi yishkon behar kadshecha. A song of David, Lord, who may sojourn in your tent, who may dwell on your holy mountain. Holech tamim ufa'el tzedek v'dover emet b'levavo. One who walks in purity, does what is righteous, and speaks the truth from the heart. Lo raga'al al l'shono lo asa le're'ehu ra'a v'cherpa lo nasa'a krovo. Who has no slander on the tongue, nor has done harm to a fellow, nor cast disgrace toward a neighbor. Nivzeh be'einav nimas v'et yirei Adonai yechabed. Yishba lahara v'lo yamir. In whose eyes a contemptible person is repulsive, but who honors those who are in awe of the Lord, who swears truthfully even to personal hurt and never retracts. Kaspo lo natan beneshech v'shochad al naki lo lakach, ose'ela lo yemot leolam. Who does not lend money on interest, nor takes a bribe against the innocent. One who does these things shall never falter. Tehillim Kuf Lamed, Psalm 130. Shir Hama'alot Mima Makim Karaticha Adonai. A song of ascents out of the depths I call you, Lord. Adonai Shema Bekoli Tiena Aznecha Kashuvo Lekol Tachanunai. Lord, listen to my cry. Let your ears be attentive to my supplicative plea. Im avonot tishmor ya Adonai mi yamod. If you preserve the account of sins, God, Lord, who can survive? Ki imcha haslicha leman tivare. Pardon resides with you, so that you are held in awe. Ki viti Adonai kifta nashi v'lidvaro hochalti. I hope for the Lord, my soul hopes. I await God's word. Nafshi la Adonai, shomrim la boker. I yearn more for the Lord than guards for the morning guard for the morning. Yachel Yisrael el Adonai ki im Adonai chesed, v'harbe imo fdut, v'hu yifdeh et Yisrael mikol avonotav. Israel, wait for the Lord, for with the Lord is kindness and great redemption. And it is God who will redeem Israel from all its iniquities. It's Jewish custom in traditionally observant Jewish homes to recite a song from Mishle, a poem, if you will. It is done as a sign of respect to the matriarch of the home. And I will read a section of it now. Eshet chayil mi yimsa v'rachot mitninim mikra, batach ba'alev ba'ala, v'shalel lo yechsar. Gemalatu tov v'lo ra, kol yemei chayeha, darshet semer ufishtim, v'ta'as b'chafetz kapeha. A gallant woman who can find far beyond pearls is her worth. Her husband's heartfelt trust is in her, and he shall lack for nothing. She bestows good upon him and never harm all the days of her life. She seeks out wool and linen, and her hands work willingly. Pia patcha bechachma, v'torat chesed al lishona. Sophia halichot beta velechem atzlut lo tochel, kamu vaneha v'yashruha, bala v'halala. Rabot banot asuchayo v'atalit al kulana. Sheker achen vehevel hayofi, isha yirat Adonai, hi titala. Tnu la mipri yadeha, hallelujah, ashari maaseha. Her mouth is open with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She oversees the ways of her household and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her husband, and he lauds her. Many daughters have accomplished well, but you surpass them all. Grace is false, and beauty is vain. A woman in awe of God, she should be praised. Give her the fruits of her own hand, and let her deeds praise her in the gathering places. It is never easy to come to these moments where we must say goodbye to a loving wife, mother, grandmother, and friend to so many. Gayla was really one of a kind. And in the short time that I had the privilege to get to know her, she left a lifelong impression. It is hard enough to say goodbye to those that we love, but to do it at such, as we can say, thankfully today, a young age is all the more difficult. Gayla left an impact with so many and was so kind that even though she left our community, Northbrook Community Synagogue, 8 years ago, it still feels as though her impact is felt today. Gayla was born to Lawrence and Rose Levinson on the south side of Chicago on the 5th of December, 1944. She would grow up on the south side with Sister Kay, to a father who owned grocery stores and a mother who kept the home. She would attend South Shore High School. Always the overachiever, she would graduate early in 1962. She would briefly attend the University of Illinois before matriculating through Roosevelt University, graduating with a degree in education. She would sometime later get a master's degree in linguistics from Northeastern, graduating in 1995. She was a lifetime learner. And while she was ever the powerful educator, her commitment to her own learning was never ending. She would eventually, after graduating Roosevelt University, move and start a family in Northbrook, having Darren in 1969 and Robert joining the family in 1973. The family would stay in Northbrook, but eventually move several times from Santa Fe, New Mexico to Los Angeles, till eventually deciding that the family was better off closer to home and Gayla's family. And in 1979, she and the boys moved to Skokie off Niles Center Road. It was at the Skokie JCC at a single parents support group that I understand her life would change forever. Now, Gayla was a tremendously strong-willed woman, certainly the years that I knew her, but it sounds as though she was always. As she met a man at the Skokie support group who beseeched of her for a date. I understand that it took many attempts to break down the strong wall before Gayla would agree. I also understand it took the bringing along of all of the children on the first date in order to convince Gayla to go on the first date. After 4 years of dating, Michael finally rose to the courage to ask Gayla to marry him. It took 5 times until she finally said yes. But Gayla was tremendously cautious to make the right decisions for a lifetime of happiness. They were married on May 22nd, 1983, and never looked back. I understand that Adina had the chance to meet Gayla at a Purim gathering where Gayla was dressed in a Minnie Mouse costume, which left an impact to this day. Gayla was an educator. She spent 30 years teaching from pre-K to 3rd grade in the Chicago public school system. She was dedicated and tireless, and I understand to this day was still able to summon a song for any word you could bring up from her educational background. Almost 8 years ago, she and Michael moved to Florida, where Michael told me that she had the distinguishing quality after retiring of earning an A in retirement. She embraced it and all it had to offer, going to Maj groups, swimming, and just enjoying her time in retirement. She was always close to her sister, and the one thing that kept coming across when I spoke to the family was that family always came first. Family came first, and she loved every one of them. Even her stepchildren and grandchildren didn't call her by any name except grandma and mother. They were essential to her life as she was to them. I understand she was also a tremendous baker, her mandel bread often summoning fights for the last piece, and everything that she baked was delicious. She liked to travel. I understand that she went with the grandchildren on vacation to South Haven, where they would pick blueberries together. She also liked, I understand, to talk to babies. She was kind and caring, and I think their soft and vulnerable nature spoke to her soul. I understand that she and Michael also liked square dancing, and at least one time showed up for a meal in full regalia to the embarrassment of their children. She was a tremendous volunteer. She was involved at Hadassah as the sisterhood president of Anshe Chesed in Boynton. And I know at Northbrook Community Synagogue, she could always be seen helping in the kitchen or volunteering at any event. In this week's Parsha, in synagogues around the world, we'll read from Parshat Ki Tisa, which translates to when you take. The people are commanded to take a half shekel of silver to contribute to the sanctuary. The rich weren't allowed to contribute more, and the poor weren't allowed to contribute less. In this way, the people were reminded that while we may all contribute something different to society, we all share the same value. And in turn, we learn that like Shkalim, we all look the same from a distance. We are each unique, however, and contribute equally in our own way to society. Gayla, at least in my shul, for the short time that we were both there together, very often mingled amongst the collective, but she was invaluable. And when Gayla and Michael moved to Florida, we missed their smiling presence every day. Kitisa continues by telling us that Betzalel and Aholiav would be in charge of constructing the sanctuary because they are wise-hearted, we're told. It's an unusual phrase to be wise-hearted. The Netziv points out that wisdom is usually associated with the head, not the heart. So why this phrase? The Netziv writes that wisdom of the heart is one with the special characteristic of awe of God. My son, who was recently bar mitzvah, interpreted this as humility and big emotions, thinking about others first and doing it with a caring soul. I bring this up because when I thought about this section of Torah, I couldn't help thinking about Gayla. She was wise-hearted. She had awe of God. She was caring and always was the first to volunteer or help another. She was unique and left an impression. May you be as strong-willed as she was in every life pursuit, whether personal or professional. May you be as loving as she was to all her family. May you grow to be as educated as she was and never shy from taking leadership in important causes you wish to support. May you support each other through this difficult time. And may the memory of Gayla Levinson Neikrug, Gela Bat Yaakov Lazer Halevi Veroiza be an everlasting blessing. At this point, I'd like to invite up Rob, her son, to say a few words.
Have my notes typed on the phone, as despite my mother's persistent and best efforts, legible handwriting never came to me, but she tried. As what was said, my mother, I know that even as a child, every decision she made was about what was best for the family, and especially for Darren and I. And it was always, whether it was when she left teaching for a bit to become a paralegal so that she would have the energy to be a single mother when she came home. And whatever she did, she always taught that family was what was important. But as I can see from some of the people here in this, to her, family was what you created. It was about love and respect and coming together, and that's why, her relationship remained with her in-laws from the first marriage, that stayed with her because, again, the connection of family is something that goes beyond just blood and goes beyond that. And, it's like anytime, my mother, her excitement when she would connect with some cousin that she just found out about, or I'd mention some city and she would know some relative who had lived there. Those were the things that were important to her. And while, many children cause grief to their parents, I waited until my late 20s and 30s to do that to my mother. And whether it was when I decided to move to Israel, well, obviously she had mixed feelings, but she signed up to, a few weeks after I was going there, she signed up to go with Kay to the Hadassah convention there and lugged an extra suitcase of stuff for me. My decision to enlist in the Army was not the best received, but that didn't stop her from being there for my basic training graduation. Didn't stop her from using her paralegal skills to fight with the post office that the box of food she wanted to send me in Afghanistan, that there was no weight limit on packages going to overseas military, and to make sure I had what I needed. Always been there for my family, whether it was coming to Colorado to stay with us, to take care of Maya when Zachary was born, to coming to Virginia when I was having surgery. She was always there. And, while we never lived, the closest we've lived was these last 8 years in Florida, which were wonderful, that we were finally only a few-hour drive instead of a couple of days or flights. We didn't get to see her as much, but we did get to. And, I'm glad that my children had the opportunity, and I know that that's what she valued most, was that time with them, whether it was going swimming, whether it was some other activity. Again, that's what's most important. And, I know that's what my mother with Michael, with my Abba, found someone who the importance of family could be shared with. And I think that's just, there's so much I could say, but I think that's really, the key thing I just take away from her is just to, respect people, respect humanity, and to show love and appreciation for people.
At this point, I'd like to invite up Adina to say a few words.
I am reading, something written by my son Yaakov on behalf of our kids. Dear Grandma, we cannot describe the amount of joy we had spending time with you. We spent countless Shabbatot Sidurim with you, every Thanksgiving dinner, Memorial Day barbecue. We also never failed to raid your stash of mandel bread or your brownies or chocolate chip meringues. Grandma, you took us everywhere. The movies, the Skokie district pools, the library, and Disney on Ice. However, I would like to highlight 3 trips. The first was on the 3rd of July, fireworks and displays with the Buckmans and Drapkins. We would pack up your trunk with lounge chairs, trays of desserts, and a mega cooler. We would drive what seemed to the middle of nowhere, apply sunscreen, then bug spray, and watch the skies light up with endless fireworks. The second trip was when we used to go to Sleepy Hollow in South Haven, Michigan with you and Aunt Kay. We packed your trunk with lounge chairs, trays of desserts, and 2 mega coolers. We would spend the summer days swimming in the pool and lake, playing ping pong, making s'mores on the beach. Plus, we picked and ate so many blueberries. Of course, the blueberry cobblers we would make afterwards. The third trip was to South Florida State Fair. We would watch hog races, illusionists, but mostly we would go from stand to stand, trying to get all the cool freebies and spinning every wheel we could find. But most importantly, Grandma, as a kid, you were always equated with one thing: ice cream. From the Edie's ice cream in the freezer to the fudgicles that will melt all over our stomachs by the pool, Grandma equaled ice cream. We remember one particular time on the way back from Disney on Ice, I was already asleep in the car, only to be awoken by the lights of Baskin-Robbins drive-thru. I thought you were so cool giving me ice cream at 9:30 p.m. You taught us to swim and to bake. You helped us with our reading and math. You always cared deeply about our schoolwork and always asked us what we were learning. Grandma, you were also the reason I, at 24 years old, cannot get the tune of Brown Bear, or Chicka Chicka Boom Boom out of my head. You loved to sing and listen to music. Whether it was festive Thanksgiving or Hanukkah songs, to the XM Broadway station in your radio, you taught us to live life with music. Even when you were quiet, we knew you were silently humming a show tune. Grandma, you were so proud of us. You gave us so many memories. So although today we will no longer be going on trips with you, we won't be able to hear your voice or your singing, no more words of wisdom or helping with schoolwork. Please know this. Grandma, you have very much made us who we are today. From our love of ice cream to our love of music, from our knowledge of all the states to the proper use of the term really. From our care and kindness to taking in the beauty of everyday activities. You are a part of us, ingrained into who we are. Grandma, we will cherish you forever.
At this point, I'd like to invite up Michael to say a few words.
One of the problems of going last and not coordinating with the people that spoke before, there's a lot of redundancy, so on the wing, I'm going to edit what I wrote. Eshet Chayil mi nimtza. Gayla was raised in a strong Jewish family. Her parents worked very hard to provide the necessities of life, but it was so unbelievably easy, with no effort, to fill her home with love and kindness that they lavished graciously over their two daughters and the entire extended family. And as you heard, we had a very interesting extended family. And each and every one in our family is exactly that, our family. The day I met Gayla, as you heard, at the Skokie JCC, she lit a light, a little candle in my heart that kept me warm and showed me the correct way, because I always didn't know where that one was. The way through many great years of our lives and a few very, very bumpy. Gayla took the love she got from her parents and shared it with everyone. As you heard, our family numbered 7 on day 1. It's hard to remember a Shabbat without many, many more people at the table. And in our small townhouse, our Sedarim grew to over 25, making sure that everybody who wanted to celebrate would celebrate with us. She had an amazing gift of working with her students, you've already heard. Many teaching them their very first English word. She taught in the Chicago public schools for 30 years, and I still have an amazing collection of coffee cups of my favorite teacher and letters of appreciation from parents. She kept spreading the love she received from her parents to our children, our grandchildren, and our amazing, amazing extended family. We moved to Chicago, from Chicago to Florida when the winters became unbearable for both of us. Then she made sure that every yontif, every school vacation, every time she could, we brought our children and grandchildren down to share the warmth of her love and the warmth of Florida, planning each day tailor-made to the people that came to visit. The last few years were not very kind to Gayla. She felt the terrible loss, the pain of her beloved sister. She endured numerous attacks on her body, but it didn't stop her from going to Israel for Yaakov's wedding and participating in Yaakov's wedding. And just last week, coming with great, great difficulty back to Chicago to be with Tara and Avi at their simcha. My beloved Gayla, my one and only, my basherta, my everything. You gave me the most wonderful spark 45 years ago. Again, certain that the spark is now not a spark, but a burning fire that will keep me warm and showing me the way for the rest of my life. I love you with all my heart.
Mizmor LeDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echzar bino deshe, yarbitzeni, almei menuchot yenahaleni, nafshi yishovev, yancheni v'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech begetz al ma'avet lo ira ra, ki ata imadi, shitecha umishantecha, hema yenachamuni, Taroch lefanai shochan neged sorarai. Tishanta vashemen roshi. Kosi revayai. Achtov vachesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shavti B'veit Adonai leorech yamim. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Please rise for a memorial prayer. Malei rachamim, shochein bamromim, hametzei menucha nechona al kanfei hashchina, b'mahalot kedoshim utehorim kizarakia mazhirim et nishmat Gayla bat Yaakov Lezer Halevi v'roiza shahalcha leolama ba'avuhor shenachnu mitpalelim be'ad hazkarat nishmata began Eden tehei menuchata lachain bal harachamim yastireha beseter kanavav la'olamim vayitzur betzur achayim et nishmata Adonai hu nachalata V'tanuach v'shalom al mishkava v'nomahar Amen. God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant proper repose in the sheltering wings of your presence, in the lofty levels of the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament unto the soul of Gayla Levinson Neikrug, the daughter of Lawrence and Rose, who has gone to her world and for whose memory we pray. May her repose be in paradise. May the Master of Compassion bring her under the cover of God's wings and bind her soul in the bond of life. May the Lord be her heritage, and may she repose on her resting place in peace. And let us respond. Amen.
This concludes our service here in the chapel. Interment will take place immediately at the family plot at West Lawn. Procession to the cemetery will be forming just outside our parking lot. If you're joining the family procession, please make sure you obtain an orange funeral safety sticker as well as a magnetic flag to place on the rooftop portion of your vehicle. While in procession, please make sure your bright headlights, your hazard lights are on at all times. Please drive as closely as safety permits to the car in front of you. Please use your horn liberally while in procession, especially while going through any intersections, as we want to avoid any cars from entering the procession. Following the interment, the family will be sitting Shiva 2753 West Chase, the Greenberg residence. We're going to give the family a little time privately. When they return, 5:30 will be mincha, and the family will be receiving visitors until 9 p.m. Both today, tomorrow, and Friday Shacharis at 7 o'clock. No visitors after 1 p.m. Family will continue Motzei Shabbos 7 p.m. to 9:30, and then Sunday Shacharis at 7 a.m., at which point the Shiva will move to Florida. That information is available on our folder. If you're on our website, that information is on the funeral home website. Memorial contributions in Gayla's memory can be made to Hadassah. That information is on the folder as well. The following individuals have been asked to serve as pallbearers. When I call your name, if you could please make your way next to Gayla's casket. Aaron Friedman, Gabriel Friedman, Daniel Friedman, serving as honorary pallbearer Rick Friedman, David Friedman, Kevin Greenberg, and Fred Neikrug. And ask everyone to please rise as we sort the casket and the family from the chapel.